"Get on me! Get off me!" squealed the gnome. It was certainly not like Santa Claus. It was small and leathery looking, with a large knobby bald head, exactly like a potato. Ron held it at arm's length, and as it kicked out at him with its horny little feet, he grasped it around the ankles and turned it upside down. "This is what you have to do," he said. He raised the gnome above his head and started to swing a great circle like a lasso. Seeing the shocked look on Harry's face, Ron added, "It doesn't hurt them. You've just got to make them really dizzy so they can find their way back to the gum hole." He let go the gnome's ankle. It flew 20 feet into the air and landed with a thud in the field over the hedge. "Pitiful," said Fred. "I bet I'll get mine beyond this stump." Harry learned quickly not to feel too sorry for the gnomes. He decided just to drop the first one he caught over the hedge, but the gnome, sensing weakness, sank its razor-sharp teeth into Harry's finger, and he had a hard job shaking it off until, "Wow, Harry, that must have been 50 feet." The air was soon thick with flying gnomes. "See, they're not too bright," said George, seizing 5 or 6 gnomes at once. The moment they knew that the gnoming going on, they stormed up to have a look. "You think they'd have learned by now just to stay put?" Soon the crowds of gnomes in the field started walking away in a straight line, their little shoulders hunched. "They'll be back," said Ron, as they watched the gnomes disappear into the hedge on the other side of the field. "They love it too. That's too soft for them. He thinks they're funny." Just then the front door slammed. "He's back," said George. "Dad, come!" They hurried through the garden and back into the house. Mr. Weasley was slumped in a kitchen chair with his glass over his eyes and his eyes closed. He was a thin man going bald, but the little hair he had was as red as any of his children's. He was wearing long green gloves, which were dusty and travel-worn. "What a night," he mumbled, dropping for the teapot as they all sat down around him. "9 raised 9! And old Mundungus Fletcher tried to put a hex on man when I had my back turned." Mr. Weasley took a long gulp of tea and sighed. "Find anything, Dad?" said Fred eagerly. "All I got were a few stringing door keys and a biting cackle," yawned Mr. Weasley. "There was some pretty nasty stuff. There wasn't my report, though. Mortlake was taken away for questioning about some extremely old fat turtles, but that the community on experimental terms, thank goodness." "Why would anyone bother making door keys shrink?" said George. "Just muggle baiting," sighed Mr. Weasley. Sell them a key that keeps shrinking to nothing, so they can never find it when they need it." "Of course, it's very hard to convict anyone because no muggles would admit their key keeps shrinking. They'll insist they just keep losing it. Blast them, they'll go to any length to ignore magic even if it's staring them in the face. It's staring them in the face. But the things our lot have taken to enchanting you wouldn't believe. Like hers, for instance. Mrs. Weasley had appeared, holding a long poker like a sword. Mr. Weasley's eyes jerked open. He stared guiltily at his wife. "Cars, Molly dear?" "Yes, other cars," said Mrs. Weasley, her eyes flashing. Imagine a wizard buying a rusty old car and telling his wife all he wanted to do with it was take it apart to see how it worked, while really he was enchanting it to make it fly. Mr. Weasley blinked. "Well, dear, I think you'll find that he would be quiet within the law to that, even if he maybe have done better to tell his wife the truth. There's a loophole in the law, you'll find out. As long as he wasn't intending to fly the car, the fact that the car could fly wouldn't. Arthur Weasley, you made sure there was a loophole when you wrote that law," shouted Mrs. Weasley, "just so you could carry your tinkering with all that muggle rubbish in your shed. And for your information, Harry arrived this morning in the car you weren't intended to fly." "Harry?" said Mr. Weasley blankly. "Harry who?" He looked around, saw Harry, and jumped. "Good Lord, is it Harry Potter?" "Very pleased to meet you. Ron's told so much about." "Your son flew that car to Harry's house and back last night," shouted Mrs. Weasley. "What have you got to say about that, "Did you really?" said Mr. Weasley eagerly. "Did it go all right? I mean," he faltered as sparks flew Mrs. Weasley's eyes. That was very wrong, boys. Very wrong indeed." "Let's leave them to it," Ron muttered to Harry, as Mrs. Weasley swelled like a bullfrog. "Come on, I'll show you my bedroom." They slipped out of the kitchen and down a narrow passageway to an uneven staircase which wound its way zigzagging up through the house. On the third landing, a door stood ajar. Harry just caught sight of a pair of bright brown eyes staring at him before he closed with a snap. "Ginny," said Ron, "you don't know how weird it is for her to be this shy. She never shuts up normally." They climbed 2 more flights until they reached a door with peeling paint and a small placard on it saying "Ronald's room." Harry stepped in, his head almost touching the sloping ceiling, and blinked. It was like walking into a furnace. Harry sat in his head. Furnace. Nearly everything in Ron's room seemed to be a violent shade of orange. The bed spread the walls, even the ceilings. Then Harry realized that Ron had covered nearly every inch of the shabby wall paint with posters of the same 7 witch and wizard, all wearing bright orange robes, carrying broomsticks, and waving energetically. "You catched him," said Harry. "Yeah, the cuddly cannons." Ron pointing at the orange bedspread, which was embellished with 2 giant black seats and a spreading cannonball. "Ninth in the league." Ron's school spell books were stacked untidily in a corner next to a pile of comics that all seemed to feature the adventure of Martin Mix, the Mad Muggle. Ron's magic wand was lying on the top of a fish tank full of frog spawn on the windsill next to his fat grey rat, Stavus, who was snoozing in the patch of sun. Harry stepped over a flag of self-chaffering playing cards on the floor and looking out of the tiny window. In the veldt far below he could see a gang of gnomes sneaking one by one back through the Weasley's hatch. Then he turned to look at Ron, who was watching him almost nervously, as though waiting for his opinion. "It's a bit small," said Ron quickly. "Not like the room you had with the Muggles, and I'm right underneath the gull in the attic. He's always banging on the pipes and groaning." But Harry, grinning widely, said, "This is the best house I've ever been in." Ron's ears went pink.